Patrick Cook here. Thanks for joining me in this next session. We're involved with a Mandelbulb 3D discussion of and what we're trying to do here is to move forward with a full animation project while at the same time as we go through use this as an opportunity to discuss the features and the functionality of the Mandelbulb software. Of course, there's more to using the Mandelbulb 3D software as a fractal art tool than just tweaking the knobs and punching the buttons and whatnot. You want to try to go somewhere with what you're developing. I look at it as I'm trying to discover a graphic which is interesting to view. It's not disturbing in terms of lack of quality that would interfere with the enjoyment of viewing the graphic. I tend to move along and experiment with the various formula properties and the positioning, using the navigator's position controls, looking for something that is interesting, that would have a theme to it. I'm actually in the process of attempting to discover a graphic which will have a theme to it, that will be meaningful in some way. I don't like just random graphics just because they're pretty. I like the graphic to actually suggest something. I mean, if we take a look at what we have when we left off at the last session, this graphic suggests something. What it's suggesting is that you're looking down into a deep pit of which eventually will visually disappear. That's how deep it is. Now, you could be falling, or you could just be hanging over looking, all right? But this particular graphic, just to pick something, it is certainly not done. It needs a lot of work. But the point I'm making is that the graphic is suggesting something. It's suggesting a position in space, or it's suggesting movement, or it's suggesting going somewhere or having been somewhere. It's confining visually. All right, that's why I have made an effort to get into down onto the fractal. A couple sessions ago, we were looking at this thing, and it's like wide open, it's like big, and it took a lot to walk into it because it's huge, digitally speaking. Anyway, so I like to search for graphics that have some meaning, that say something to the viewer, that suggest something, maybe suggest an action, or it suggests a mood, or it suggests a place. Now, because I have those rather, ambitious, artistic goals, most of the Mandelbulb 3D graphics that I land on, they don't fit my criteria. They don't say anything. They don't do anything. They don't move me in any way. But when it happens, and you know it, and you say, "Boy, I've got to make that. I've got to make that one work." Most of the time, the graphics don't work. They're it's an art of discovery, and the idea is that play you play with the software until you have a discovery in which you say, "Aha, now that's something I want to take further." You play with the software by manipulating the formula properties, whether you do it here in main or you do it over here on the navigator. All right, and simultaneously you play with the position, your position. You are the camera. All right, and you play with the far plane and the field of view and the camera type and the zoom. All right, you play with them until it pops out and you say, "Ah, that's where I want to be." Most of the time, no good. But let's continue now. Let's continue playing. All right. All right. I think at this point, I am going to stop navigating, and I'm going to turn my attention to these formulas here. I'm going to see what kind of impact my formulas have on my graphic. All right, because this is sort of a neat view. It's a little boring. It could do better. Let's see what we can do with the formula. So, back to the navigator. I'm going to start with formula number 1, which is the amazing box, and it has one iteration. Now, we could increase the number of iterations. Whoa. All right. Only thing I did was I increased the number of iterations of formula number 1 from 1 to 2. And that's what I get. View to main, calculate. The only thing I adjusted was the iterations. Let me go to 3 iterations. Now that doesn't look good at all. View to main, so we can see it. 4 iterations. 5 iterations. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. But this was pretty cool. 2 iterations. I have something remarkably different. Not quite what I want. I'm going to go back to 1 iteration. But you do notice here on Formula 2, that was still 1 iteration. Formula 3 was only 1 iteration. So this amazing box formula is being run twice for every time these are run once. So you can see here how that one little parameter adjustment, running this formula twice versus running these other 2 once, made a remarkable, dramatic difference. I'm going to go back to iteration of 1. I'm back to where I started. View to main, calculate. Let me try adjusting the scale. Ooh, check that out now. Now look at that. Okay. View to main, calculate. Let's see what we got. Interesting. I changed the scale. But if I don't want that, I can reset the value. No, I can't. So a little idiosyncrasy here of this application. If I change a parameter like that and I reset value, it'll take me back. If I change the parameter and then push it over to main, boom, the reset value no longer works. It doesn't reset the last value. It lost the last value as soon as I pushed it to main, or who knows, did something else. Let's try it. Change that. Okay, let's just push it to main just so we get some evidence. Okay, now let's try sliding. Oh, look at that. All right. That messed up, didn't it? I'm going to pull it back from main. Okay. Change the scale. Slide. Can I reset? Yeah. All right. So I change the scale. I navigate, and I can reset back to the previous. So what I find is that I can revert the parameter change with the reset value, even if I navigate. Good. But if I push it over to main, I lose the reset. All right. So that's enough for this particular session. When we return, I'm going to continue to see if I can discover an interesting graphic. And again, I'm trying to shoot for our model graphic. I'll see you in the next session.